Alright guys, so the first thing that I did when I got back to Canada from Guatemala was I went and checked out the new 50 Shades Darker movie. So I have my review of said movie. If that's something you're interested in, then please stick around. Hey guys, it's Morgan from BDSM Relationships and Education. Thanks very much for checking out this video. As you guys know, I do 2 new educational videos per week, and I also like to throw in some of these like movie reviews or other tags and whatever videos just for fun as an extra bonus video. So if you are interested in checking out all of the educational videos that I do, please subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos, new educational videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and I've been pretty good about sticking to that schedule so far. So I think we're going to stick with it. And then sometimes, like I said, you get this little bonus episode. So here we go. Let's talk about 50 Shades. Okay, so like I said, I just got back from Guatemala. I was there for a couple of weeks, just doing a vacation thing. I like to travel, and so Guatemala was like really high on my list as far as places to go. It was really awesome. If you'd like to hear about it, just leave me a comment and I'll do a vlog style post about my trip if you want. You can also check out a lot of the cool photos and stuff like that I took on my trip if you follow me on Instagram, and I'll post a link somewhere around here for Instagram. You should follow me on Instagram anyways, because I post all kinds of cool stuff, little insights into my life and stuff about kink and like all the fun parties and shit that I go to and whatever. Anyways, let's talk 50 Shades. The reason I'm a little delayed on this is, again, I was in Guatemala. That was kind of the point of talking about that. So I was in Guatemala. My Spanish is good enough to get by as far as food and travel and stuff like that. Not good enough to watch a movie in. I just simply do not speak that level of Spanish. And also the Spanish in Guatemala was drastically different than the Spanish in Mexico. I found, I had a hard time understanding at first. It took me a little bit to get used to. And people had a hard time understanding me too, because I think I speak with this weird Spanish. I speak Spanish with a weird Mexican Canadian accent thing. So yeah, anyways, I didn't watch the movie in Spanish. I waited till I got home and I watched it in English because that is my native language, and yeah, sorry, Spanish, I suck. But anyways, about the movie, finally. It's only 3 minutes in. Don't worry, I'll stop babbling. So my first impression about the movie was that there was very little kink. I mean, I knew that going in because I've read the books, but there was even less than what I was expecting, because the kink aspect, or the kinky sex aspect, because there wasn't a whole lot of kink outside of the sex, but that's what really drew people in to these, movies, books, whatever. So I was a little disappointed that there was such a limited kink element to the movie. So I was sitting there saying to myself and saying to my boyfriend, I don't know what is worse, if there's almost no kink or if there is kink, but it's just done badly. Because it seems to be kind of the option that we get with 50 Shades. And please, don't think that I'm bashing the movie or the books if you really enjoyed it. I think that they're an awesome fantasy. They're not a fantasy for me, obviously, as a dominant woman and an asexual and stuff like that. It's not really my cup of tea, but I understand that a lot of people really loved it, and it's brought a lot of people into kink and into the BDSM community, and for that I will always be somewhat grateful, despite the problems with the books and movies. It's brought out so many new people and helped people discover this side of them, which I think is an invaluable thing. So anyways, so obviously the movie deviates from the book a fair bit. One of the things that kind of stood out to me was the whole Benoit balls scene, where we were introduced to the Benoit balls in the first book. And then it wasn't until the second book or the second movie rather, that Christian introduced Anna to the Benoit balls when they were going to the party at his parents' house. I'm so grossed out by that, just for the record. Who goes to a party at your partner's parents' house with a sex toy inside of them. Like, it's just no, like, you know, we did Christmas dinner and, you know, the whole family shows up, and it's not like I turned into my boyfriend slash sub and was like, oh, you know, it would be super fun for Christmas while your family is sitting here eating with us. Stick that butt plug in. Like, no. So, I mean, hey, your kink is not my kink, and that's okay. But to me, that is just, you know, a step too far. But anyways, yeah, so I noticed that as one of the discrepancies between books and movies. I mean, it's never going to be exactly the way the book is. And I think for a lot of us who love books, that's our problem with going to see a movie afterwards. You know, I mean, it's like any book. And like, this is certainly not 50 Shades specific. Like, you know, everybody complained that Lord of the Rings was different from the book to the movie. Thankfully, I hadn't read the books in like 20 years, so I kind of forgot a lot of it, and the movies were awesome for me, but I understand the people who were upset. But, you know, like, so it's just a minor complaint. I wish they had stayed a little more true to, you know, the books. It was the story that people fell in love with, and it's the story that people found hot and sexy and everything else. So I think that that's why I wish they had stuck a little more closely. Again, we really kind of see that E.L. James only did like very surface level research on kink, right? Not enough to really truly understand BDSM and kink and things like that. Certainly not enough to understand DS relationships. And barely enough to understand like SM style play. So she did get some of the lingo, like when Anna says, oh, I like your kinky fuckery. I mean, that's something that's definitely an expression that people use, kinky fuckery. I've heard it many, many times in the kink community, you know, just to describe either kink play or kinky sex or whatever. But, you know, there's no substance behind that. It's just like, oh, okay, we'll grab a couple of buzzwords, and then we are lacking on the substance. I'll be right back. Not that you guys are going to notice because I can edit this out. But anyways, my throat hurts because I got sick when I got back to Canada. So I need some tea. All right, much better. And I'm sure you guys remember my favorite mug. This was given to me by a former partner, and I love the mug, so I use it all the time. All right, so, tea. Another major complaint that I have, and this is, you know, the story overall, but it's Anna's continuing insistence on breaching Christian's hard limits. To me, that's just really fucked up. And I don't think that you need to be kinky to understand the concept of a hard limit. If I'm in a vanilla relationship, which is kind of funny and we'll all laugh about that, but if I'm in a vanilla relationship and I say, hey, don't do that, you know, like that really bothers me, don't do that at all, ever, under any circumstance, then I'm sure my partner understands that. I don't have to say, oh, it's a hard limit. I don't have to explain what hard limits are and what kink is and blah, 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 blah. I just have to say, don't do that. It really bothers me. Please, in future, don't ever do that again. And if a partner respects me, they won't do that, right? Like, it's not a hard concept to understand. You don't need to be experienced in relationships. You don't need to be experienced in kink. But Anna keeps doing it. And it's just like, why? Why are you doing that? Anyways, so I kind of liked Christian's response to that, you know, offering like, okay, look, you know, you really want to touch me. I understand that that's important to you. And I understand from Anna's point of view that that's kind of an important thing. But the way she went about it was totally wrong. So for Christian, he says, okay, I get it. It's important. So let's draw a roadmap. And they made it kind of sexy, you know, drawing with the lipstick. And it really showed a lot of trust on his part towards her, which I think is really awesome because, you know, we've been focusing so far in the books and the movies and everything to, you know, how much trust she has to have in him. And he's not very good at that being trusted thing at all, but whatever. this was a chance for it to work the other way, because in kink relationships and vanilla relationships, it works both ways. It's not, oh, okay, one person has to trust the other person explicitly and the other person is kind of like, whatever. Like, we have to trust each other, whether, you know, it's me as a dominant and a top trusting my partner as a submissive and a bottom. I need to know that, you know, they are going to safe word when they need to. I need to know that they're going to communicate with me. I need to know all of this stuff. So there's trust that goes both ways. So I really actually enjoyed the scene where, you know, they're drawing the roadmap. I think in the movie, it sort of didn't have the emphasis on the trust and everything else as much as in the book, but that's sort of my personal opinion. You know, you may have found the opposite, that it was better portrayed in the movie than the book. But I think I'm just always biased towards the book, if there is one. It's just me. I love books. What can I say? So yeah, I just found that it was a little bit glossed over. Like, the point of it all was a little glossed over in the movie. But, you know, it was still, I think, a really important scene overall for the series. So, of course, we get to meet some new characters, and I'm going to give a big spoiler alert right now. If you haven't read the books or seen the movie, then you may not want to continue. I'm going to try not to, like, give everything away or anything, but at the same time, you know, I'm going to talk about stuff that happens in the movie that you may not expect if you're not familiar with the story at all. So anyways, we meet some new characters. So for the first one we meet, I can't remember the chronological order of meeting the characters right now, but one of the ones that we meet is Mrs. Robinson. And so her name is Elena. And this is the woman that introduced Christian to BDSM. And so obviously Anna really doesn't think much of her, right? She thinks that she's a pedophile and everything else. And I can't blame Anna. Mrs. Robinson, which I do like the name, that the nickname that she's given her. But Mrs. Robinson basically was, you know, she's an adult. She was Christian's mom's friend. He was a young teenager. I can't remember how old he was when they got involved, whether it was like 14 or 17 or whatever. But either way, he was too young, right? Like, he wasn't quite an adult. And maybe in some jurisdictions not an illegal relationship, but it's certainly not an ethical one. And that's where I have the problem. I don't really care too much about, you know, what the laws say, as long as I'm on the right side of them. But I do care a lot about ethics, right? So ethically, I think that it was an inappropriate relationship. And of course, she's mean and vindictive to Anna, saying, oh, you can't give him what he needs, and blah, blah, blah. Because I think we're starting to get into the whole treating BDSM as a sickness or a disease, right? So Anna's like, oh, no, I fixed him, kind of thing. And it's like, well, you can't fix somebody from being kinky because there's nothing to fix. It's just a preference. But whatever. We'll talk about this at another time when I have lots more time, because we're already getting along here. But anyways, so throughout the course of the movie, she gets found out by Christian's mom, and that has some drama. And that is exactly the response that I would expect. Christian's a little upset about a lot of different things. His mom's pissed off that her friend was fucking her son. Like, I think that everybody in that situation would be a little pissed off. So it's an inappropriate relationship, and I'm glad that it got called out as. So then continuing on our, BDSM as a disease or a mental illness and that kind of thing, we run into Christian's ex-sub, who has, it's revealed, made suicide attempts, and she's stalking Anna specifically, but also Christian, and threatening violence and all kinds of stuff like that. And I have such a problematic, I think that is really problematic, because like, BDSM is not mental illness. There's nothing wrong with mental illness. Like, lots of people suffer from various forms of mental illness. I suffer from depression. I think that this is, it's part of the human experience to, have these types of ailments. But it has absolutely nothing to do with BDSM, first of all. There's no correlation. There's been studies that show that rates of mental illness within BDSM communities are pretty much exactly the same as with the general population. We just tend to talk about it more because we are used to being open and honest about our wants, our needs, our desires, and ourselves. So there's that, but also that this sort of tying in of mental illness and violence. And again, we look at actual studies, and they show that people with mental illness, especially severe forms of mental illness, are far more likely to be the victims of violence than to perpetrate violence against others. So I really hate that stereotype of, oh, this person is sick and they're dangerous because of it. It's like we don't look at someone with a broken leg and be like, oh God, what if they kill me? Like that makes no sense. So I don't know. I'm going to stop ranting about that again because I don't want to make a 10-hour video about me ranting about shit that pisses me off. I'm trying to talk about the movie. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I think one of my biggest complaints, too, is that the character of Anna herself, right? Within the books, Anna's character, she doesn't have very much depth, right? She's very two-dimensional to me. She's like, oh, I'm a klutz, and I like books, and, like, that's it. There's nothing else to her. And she's so innocent. She's virginal and innocent, of course. So there's not a lot to Anna. But in the movie, it's like she's totally flat. There's nothing to her at all. And I don't know whether that's the acting or whether it's just like the lack of chemistry between the actors or whether it's just the way she was written. I don't know. But I just find that like she's totally unrelatable because there's no personality there. I've noticed that she started swearing a lot more in this movie than she did in the first, and I think that they're trying to show that she's becoming a little more. Her eyes are open. She's a little less naive, but that's not how you show that she swears a bunch. Like, I mean, I swear like a drunken sailor sometimes, but like usually there's a reason for me swearing, not just like fuck, shit, fuck, like. Randomly. And that's kind of the way I feel that her character was being presented, where she just like, she went from not swearing really to then randomly just being like, well, fucking no. And it's like, what? You didn't need to swear there. Okay, what else? So yeah, I think that was just like one of my major complaints about the movie is that I just didn't feel that Anna was relatable and that she had any kind of personality at all other than she swears randomly. So that is my review-ish thing of the 50 Shades Darker movie. Sorry, if you guys didn't enjoy my review, it was certainly fairly harsh. If you liked the movie, then that's awesome. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Please don't kill me in the comments. This is my personal opinion, and it's worth nothing if you don't want to, take it. You don't have to. So, I want to throw that out there because I don't want to insult people who enjoyed the movie or anything. That's certainly not my intention. I just didn't enjoy it all that much. I asked my boyfriend what he thought about it, and he kind of rolled his eyes at me and told me that we were going to be watching Rambo movies forever because I owe him now. Because, well, not Rambo, but those types of movies. Because I made him watch it with me. But yeah, like it just wasn't for us. But if you enjoyed it, like I said, I think that's awesome. That's the great thing about the world is that we can all have different opinions. So if you want to, criticize what I've said, if you want to do whatever, please feel free in the comments. Just please be respectful. I will delete any comments that have name calling or derogatory terms or anything like that in them. It's just not acceptable to me. And I don't care who they're aimed at, just in general, if you are being insulting towards people, calling names, using derogatory terms, I'm going to delete it. But otherwise, you can disagree with me. I will totally leave that up. I have no problem with that. But anyways, I'm going to just sign off now because I'm rambling once again. I do that a lot. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Like this video if you enjoyed my tearing apart of 50 Shades Darker. And I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully, I'll have more of a voice.